15 men, 15 promises, 15 times she handed a man her whole heart, and 15 times he dropped it on the floor and walked away. Now, some of you watching this right now are going to say, she should have known better. And some of you, the ones who've been there, are going to feel this story in a place you thought you'd sealed shut for good. Her name was Claire, and by the time she was 42 years old, she had loved more deeply than most people ever dare to. But tonight, we're not telling the story of a woman who gave up on love. We're telling the story of what love did to her first. But here's the question nobody asks. Was she the victim or the one pulling the trigger? Before we go any further, I need you to hold 3 questions in your mind, because by the time this story ends, you're going to have an answer to each one, and I promise you none of them are what you think right now. Question 1. Was Claire genuinely unlucky in love, or was there a pattern she refused to see? Question 2. When a person loses their capacity to love, is that something that happens to them, or something they choose? And the one that hit me hardest when I first heard this story, what if the 15th man wasn't the one who broke her, but the one she broke? Who is Marcus? Stay with us. The answer changes everything about what love really costs. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Claire Marie Donovan grew up in Dayton, Ohio, second of 3 daughters. Father was a machinist. Mother worked dispatch at the county sheriff's office. Solid Midwestern family, not rich, not poor, just decent people trying to get by. And Claire, even as a teenager, she was the one people came to, the fixer, the listener. If you had a problem, Claire had a couch and a pot of coffee and all the time in the world. Her high school best friend, a woman named Dana, told me something that stuck with me. She said, Claire loved people the way some people love stray dogs. She couldn't help it. She just took them in. And that's important, because the very thing that made Claire extraordinary also made her a target. Not from bad men necessarily, but from broken ones. And there's a difference. Heartbreak number 1. Age 19. His name was Tyler. They dated all through freshman year at Ohio State. He was charming, magnetic, the kind of guy who walked into a room and every head turned. Claire thought she'd found the love of her life at 19. What she'd actually found was a man who needed to be the most important person in every room he ever walked into, including hers. When Tyler left her for a girl in his econ class, he didn't even tell Claire to her face. She found out through a mutual friend. On a Tuesday afternoon, standing in the cereal aisle of a Kroger, she told Dana later that she stood there for 10 minutes, didn't cry, didn't move, just stood there, holding a box of cornflakes, trying to understand how everything could look exactly the same on the outside when something had just collapsed on the inside. That was heartbreak number 1. She recovered. She was 19. She believed, the way only 19-year-olds truly believe, that love was still out there, waiting for her. And she was right, for a while. Heartbreaks 2 through 7. The 20s. The 20s were a lot. Aren't they for everyone? There was the guy who loved her but loved his career more. The one who was emotionally unavailable in ways neither of them understood yet. The one who asked her to move cities for him. She did. And then he ended things 2 months later. There was even a near marriage. His name was David. Ring and everything. Venue booked. Invitations sent. David called it off 8 weeks before the ceremony. Said he wasn't ready. Claire was 31. She returned the gifts alone. All 112 of them. She said later, that was the one that left the first real scar. Not a wound, a scar. Something permanent, but here's what nobody knew at the time. David wasn't the worst thing coming. Not even close. Heartbreaks 8 through 12. The 30s. By her late 30s, Claire had changed. Not obviously, not in ways her friends could see at first. She still showed up, still laughed, still fixed other people's problems over coffee. But something had shifted underneath, like tectonic plates moving so slowly you don't feel them, until the earthquake. Her friend Dana noticed it first. She started dating differently, Dana told me, like she was going through the motions. Checking boxes. She'd go on a 3rd date and then just disappear. No explanation, just gone. She wasn't being cruel, not intentionally. She was protecting herself the only way she knew how, by leaving before they could. She was practicing a kind of preemptive heartbreak, her own. Heartbreak 13. The one that changed everything. His name was Raymond. He was 51, a widower, kind eyes, patient, the kind of man who remembered what you said 3 weeks ago and brought it up again because he was actually listening. Claire fell for Raymond in a way she hadn't fallen for anyone since David, and it terrified her. For 8 months, Raymond did everything right. He was consistent, present. He never made her feel like she was too much or not enough. And then one morning, over breakfast, he looked at her across the table and said, "I think I'm falling in love with you, Claire." And she stood up, put $50 on the table for the check, and walked out of the restaurant. She never returned Raymond's calls, not once. That was the moment Claire Donovan stopped being someone who got her heart broken and became someone who broke hearts instead. 3 years later. Claire is 42. By the time she was 42, Claire had built a very particular kind of life. She had a good job, regional sales director for a pharmaceutical company, nice apartment in Columbus, a tight circle of friends, weekend hikes, a standing brunch reservation on Sundays, and zero interest in love, or so she told everyone who asked. Then Marcus walked in. Marcus Ellie, 47 years old, operations manager for a mid-sized logistics company, divorced once, cleanly, 2 kids, both in college. He wasn't the most handsome man in the room, but he had this quality, steadiness. Like standing next to him, you could feel the ground under your feet. Their first conversation, she laughed at something I said, Marcus told me, and she looked surprised by it, like she'd caught herself doing something she wasn't supposed to. He asked for her number, she gave it to him. She told Dana afterward, "I don't know why I did that. I wasn't planning to." They started texting, then talking on the phone, then meeting for coffee. And Claire did something she hadn't done in years. She let it happen. Slowly, cautiously, but she let it happen. Weeks 2 through 6. Marcus was different in one crucial way. He didn't try to fix her. Every man before him, the good ones anyway, eventually tried to fix her. Tried to get behind the walls. Tried to coax her open like a locked door. Marcus just sat next to her. Like the walls were fine. Like he had nowhere to be. And that terrified her more than anything else ever had. Because here's the thing about a woman who has survived 15 heartbreaks. She can handle chaos. She cannot handle peace. Dana told me Claire called her at 2:30 in the morning, almost whispering. She said, "Dana, I think he might actually be real." "What do I do?" Dana said. "You let him in, Claire." There was a long pause. Then Claire said, "I don't know if I remember how." Week 7. The shift. It was week 7. A Friday night. They were at a restaurant Claire loved. A small Italian place in the short north neighborhood of Columbus. Good wine. Soft lighting. The kind of place you go when things feel possible. Marcus reached across the table and put his hand over hers. He said, "I need to tell you something. I think I'm falling for you. And I know that might scare you. But I'm not going anywhere." Those last 4 words, "I'm not going anywhere," you'd think those would be comforting. You'd think after 15 heartbreaks, hearing a man say, "I'm not going anywhere," would feel like water after a drought. But for Claire, and this is the part of the story that took me a long time to understand, those words were a trigger, not a comfort. Every man who ever said something like that eventually went somewhere. Every single one. And without meaning to, without wanting to, something in Claire shut down. Like a circuit breaker tripping. She smiled at Marcus. She said thank you. She finished her wine. She drove home. And she started making plans to disappear. But this time, she didn't get the chance. The confrontation. 3 days of silence. Claire had done this before. Gone dark. Waited for them to give up. They always gave up. Marcus didn't give up. He showed up at her office building on a Monday morning. Not aggressive. Not demanding. He sat in the lobby for 45 minutes until she came down to meet him. He stood when he saw her and said, and Dana told me Claire repeated these words exactly. He said, "I'm not here to pressure you. I just want to know you're okay. If you want me to go, I'll go. But I needed you to know I noticed you were gone." She started to cry. Right there in the lobby of her office building, in front of the security desk and 2 people waiting for the elevator. She told Dana later, "I didn't even know I was going to cry. It just came out. Like something that had been sealed shut for years just gave." And that's when she said the thing that changed everything between them, and that neither one of them was ready for. She told him everything. Right there, all of it, the 15 relationships. The near marriage, Raymond and the $50 on the table, the 2 a.m. calls to Dana, the fact that she'd been planning to ghost him, and why. She said, "Marcus, I am broken in a very specific way, and I don't know how to let someone love me without waiting for them to leave. I want you to understand what you're signing up for, because I don't know if I can give you what you deserve." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I'm not asking you to be fixed, Claire. I'm asking you to let me stay while you figure it out. There's a difference." That was the moment. Not a movie moment, not a dramatic kiss in the rain, just two middle-aged people sitting in a lobby, being honest with each other about broken things. The next 6 months, it wasn't easy. Claire will tell you that herself. There were 3 more times she went dark on him. 3 more times he waited, not passively. He told her clearly each time that silence wasn't fair to either of them, but he waited. There were fights, real ones, about trust, about patterns, about the difference between protecting yourself and punishing someone for things they didn't do. Dana told me, "I watched her fight herself harder than she ever fought any relationship, because this time she actually wanted it to work, and that was scarier than anything." But then came month 7, and the revelation that threatened to end everything, for good. 7 months in, Marcus told Claire something he hadn't told anyone. His marriage hadn't ended the way he'd said. He'd told people it was mutual, amicable, 2 people growing apart, the standard story. The truth was that he'd been the one who left, not for another woman, but because he had struggled, badly, with depression in his early 40s. He'd become someone he didn't recognize, withdrawn, absent, unable to be the husband or the father his family needed. He'd chosen to leave because he believed, in that darkest period, that they were better off without him. He'd spent 3 years in therapy getting himself back, getting well, learning who he was without the illness running the show. He told Claire, "I know what it is to lose yourself, and I know what it takes to find your way back. I'm not going to give up on you, because I know what giving up on yourself costs." And something happened in that moment that Claire described to Dana the next morning. She said, "I stopped being afraid of him leaving because I finally understood. He already knows what it's like to be in the dark. He's not promising me perfect, he's promising me present." But was it enough? Could 15 years of damage be undone by one man who'd done his own damage and rebuilt? 1 year later, a year after that Monday morning in the lobby, Claire sat across from me. Well, the journalist who first told this story. And she said something I think about often. She said, "I spent 15 relationships waiting to be left, and then I met Marcus, and spent the first year of that relationship trying to leave him first. And he just didn't let me make it easy on myself." Here is the twist. And it's not a dramatic one. It's harder than that. The twist is that Claire realized, somewhere in year 1 with Marcus, that she had spent 15 years blaming bad luck, blaming the men, blaming timing, chemistry, the universe. But she had also, not in every case but in some, been a participant in her own abandonment. She had chosen men she could see coming problems with. She had left before they could leave. She had kept herself just safe enough to stay numb. She said, "That was the hardest thing to admit. Not that men hurt me, they did. But that I also learned to hurt myself so efficiently that I didn't need them to do it anymore." The moment of reckoning. She started therapy in month 3 with Marcus, not because he pushed her, though he gently suggested it, but because she finally wanted to understand her own patterns more than she wanted to protect them. Her therapist told her something in their second session that she repeated to me twice, like she was still turning it over. "Trauma doesn't make you broken, Claire. It makes you adaptive. The question is whether the adaptations that kept you safe once are helping you or hurting you now." And here's what nobody expected, not even Claire. Claire and Marcus have been together for 2 years now. They're not engaged. They don't live together yet. Claire moves at her own pace, and Marcus has made peace with that. She still has hard weeks. Weeks where the old patterns claw at the door. Where some small thing, an unreturned text, a canceled plan, sets off alarms in her nervous system that belong to a different decade. But here is what she told me, and it's the thing I want you to carry out of this story. She said, "I used to think the goal was to stop getting hurt, close the doors, reinforce the walls, get to a place where no one could reach you. I thought that was strength. But watching Marcus, watching how he rebuilt himself, I realized strength isn't about not getting hurt. It's about deciding the love is worth the risk, again. Even when again feels impossible. She's got no love to give now. That's what she told people. That's what she believed about herself. But she was wrong. She had more love in her than 15 men combined had managed to use up. She just needed to find one who wasn't trying to take it, but to meet it. She's got no love to give now. She was wrong. I've thought a lot about why this story matters. Because on the surface, it's not a crime. Nobody died. Nobody went to prison. It's just a woman, and 15 heartbreaks, and one man who didn't leave. But I think the real story here, the one that keeps me up sometimes, is this. We live in a world that is very comfortable talking about heartbreak as something that happens to you. We are much less comfortable talking about heartbreak as something we can do to ourselves. Claire wasn't a villain. She was a survivor who'd developed survival skills that outlasted the danger. That's not weakness. That's deeply, heartbreakingly human. So I'll ask you this, and I really want you to sit with it. How much of what you call bad luck in love is luck, and how much of it is a pattern you've been too afraid to look at? And if someone patient enough showed up tomorrow, would you let them in? Before you go, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think Claire made the right call letting Marcus in? Or was she setting herself up for heartbreak number 16? And if this story hit close to home, you're not alone. More people carry this than you know. Next time, we're going deeper. A story about a man who walked away from a 20-year marriage, not for another woman, not for a midlife crisis, but for a reason so quiet and so devastating that his own kids didn't understand it until it was too late.